So first we'll start with the basic of statistics, then probability, then correlation analysis and hypothesis testing. And in this session, we'll cover all the coding part in Spider. We'll start with the statistics. But before that, why to learn statistics in data science? So the most important aspect of data science is nothing but the statistical analysis. Because when we are talking about developing and just finding the insights from the data, we need some statistical analysis part. Okay. So for that, most of the data scientists just focusing on the data pre-processing part in their data science project. Means they work 60 to 70% of the time in the data pre-processing part to analyze the data and finding the more insights from the data. Okay. So that's why it requires a good understanding of statistics. So there are few general steps that always need to be performed to process any data. First is to identify the importance of features by using various statistical analysis or statistical test. Second thing is that find the relationship between the features. Means in our data set we have so many features. Okay, means so many variables, so many columns. So we need to find the relationship between the features and we try to eliminate the feature those are duplicate. Then we are converting the features into the required format. Then we normalizing and scaling the data. This step also involves the identification of the distribution of the data and the nature of data. Then taking the data for further analysis or further processing by using required adjustment in the data. Once the results are obtained, the results are verified on the different accuracy measurement scales by using confusion matrix and some measurements like some matrices. Okay. So here, first we will start with the basics of statistics. So if you see in any data science project, data is must. So for collecting the data, okay, we need some level of measurement, okay, to collect the data. So we have four types of level of measurement. First is nominal, then ordinal, interval, and ratio. Okay. So if we go with the nominal scale, so in the nominal scale, we can categorize our data by labeling them in mutually exclusive groups. But here, there is no order between the categories. So if we take the example of nominal scale data, like a city of birth, okay, like a particular column of in the employee data, there is a column city of birth. Okay, so you see that in the city, we can't order, like we can arrange in the ranking, or we can't do some ordering for that data. Likewise, in the gender itself, male, female, okay, so we can't order them. So these are nothing but the nominal scale. Okay, means we collect the data by using nominal scale. Like we have ethnicity, car brands, marital status. Okay. So this is the first nominal scale. From this scale, we can collect some data, or it is nothing but we can collect some columns in our data. Then second thing is that ordinal scale. So from the ordinal scale, we can categorize and also rank the data in an order, but we cannot say anything about the interval between the rankings. Okay. Although you can rank the top 5 Olympic medalists, this scale does not tell you how close or far apart they are in the number of wins. Okay. Like we take different example, language ability. So here we have the order in our data like beginner, intermediate and fluent. Okay. And also if we see the Likert scale, like we have some question like in some survey, we have the questions are like if a particular teacher providing providing you a particular material. So from that like in that survey, you need to say that from that material, are you satisfied or not? Are you very satisfied? Okay. Or very dissatisfied. So these are the different like a 5 scale Likert scale. Okay. Like in that 5 different ranking cases. Okay. So if you see the interval scale, so in that interval scale, we can categorize, rank, and infer equal intervals between neighboring data points. But there is no true 0 point. Now, here in previous two scales, you, you see that here in the nominal scale, first we just categorize the data or by just label the data. Here we categorize the data, also rank the data. Now here we categorize the data, rank the data and infer equal intervals. Okay. Like our test scores, personal personality inventories, temperature in Fahrenheit Celsius. So if you see that, what is true 0 point? So a true zero means there is an absence of the variable of interest. Okay. Like in some exams, the passing criteria will be the 35% mark. But in different exam, the passing criteria will be 40%. So you see, there is no true 0 point. Okay. Like in the height, in the weight, there is true 0 point. Okay. So this drawback will cover in the ratio scale. So in the ratio scale, we can categorize, rank and infer equal intervals between neighboring data points and there is a true 0 point. So examples of ratio scales are height, age, weight, temperature in Kelvin. Okay. So here, if we see that in all 4 different scales, we are covering all our data. Means by using these 4 different scales, we can able to collect any data. Okay, any type of data. But we need to arrange those data in different scale. Okay. So now let's see on different scales, like what we can expect or what we can analyze from this data. Okay, so from nominal scale data we can find the mode. Okay, we can find the frequencies and percentages. So what is mode first? So mode is the most frequent value in our data set. Let's say we have a data of, let's say like in our column we have a data of 1 to 10. Okay, but it's a repetitive pattern. Okay, some we have 5 times 1, 2 times 2, okay, 10 times 3, like that. So most frequent observation is nothing but the mode. Okay, then frequency. So as I say, 5 times 1. Okay, so 5 is the frequency of 1 in that column. Okay, 4 times 2, so 4 is the frequency of 2 in that column. So that likewise we are calculating the frequencies. Then percentages. Percentage is nothing but the total number of observation in the column divided by number of times that particular observation repeated in that column. Okay, this is nothing but the percentage. So on nominal scale data, we just find the mode, frequency and percentage. Okay, but on ordinal scale data we can do mode, median, frequencies, percentage and some statistical analysis. Okay, then now here new term is introduced, which is median. So median is nothing but the middlemost observation in the data. It is nothing but the middlemost observation in the data. So let's say, suppose we have a observation from 1 to 5. Okay, so the middlemost observation in the data is nothing but the 3. So that's how we'll calculate the median. Okay, and then if we see the interval scale, so in the interval scale we can find mode from the data, median, mean is nothing but the average of the data, then frequencies, percentages, variance. Variance is nothing but the variability in the data. We'll see in upcoming part what is variance in depth, as well as what is standard deviation. Okay, and finally in the ratio scale we can perform all the statistical analysis. Okay, so this is all about level of measurement and collecting the data and performing the different number of statistical analysis. In probability and statistics, random variables are used to quantify outcomes of random occurrences or random experiment. And random variable can take many values because it's a variable. Then random variables are also required to measurable and are typically real numbers. Okay, if we take the example of random variable, so first one is outcome of a coin. It's a very basic example. Then outcome of rolling a dice. Okay, so likewise in any random experiment, okay, if there is an outcome in the real numbers, So this is nothing but that outcome, nothing but the random variables. Okay. So there are basically two types of random variable. First is a discrete random variable. Second is a continuous random variable. So in a discrete random variables are countable in finite amount of time. Means we can able to count a discrete random variable. Like in this scatter plot, you will see that there is a point. Okay, so we can able to count these points. Okay, so this is nothing but a scatter plot of a discrete random variable. So if you take example, so you can count the change in your pocket. You also count the money in your bank account, as well as you can count the money in everyone's bank account. Okay, so like it might take a longer time to count that last item, but the point is it's still countable. Okay, means we want like we can able to count the number, then we can say that that variable is nothing but the discrete random variable. Okay, so like if you take the example of tossing a two coin, so the outcome of tossing two coin will be head head, tail tail, head or tail, and tail and head. So in this case you will see that there are four different outcomes in the tossing two coins. Okay, so likewise you can take any different example. Okay? So if you see the second type of random variable, which is a continuous random variable, so continuous random variables would literally take forever to count. In fact, you would get to forever and never finish counting them. For example, take the age parameter, or we can say that one column in our data set. So if someone says that, what is your age? So you simply say, I'm a 25 years old. Okay. But in continuous manner, so your age will be 25 years, 10 months, 2 days, 5 hours, 4 seconds, 4 milliseconds, 8 nanoseconds, 99 picoseconds, and so on. Okay. Means if you see, we can't count a continuous random variable. Okay. Like time. Time is a continuous random variable. Okay. So this is all about random variables and their types. Now let us start with probability. Now why to learn probability? So in data science, probability plays a major role, because if you see, for finding a model of a classification problem, so if we use a Naive Bayes classifier, so in that we are using a simple and very basic theorem of probability, which is a Bayes theorem. So with the help of Bayes theorem, we can able to build a classification model. So you see the requirement of probability in data science. Okay, and Naive Bayes classifier, this is one of the algorithm of machine learning. We are using in data science for classification purpose. So in Naive Bayes algorithm or classifier, this classifier, this algorithm, we are using this algorithm for text classification as well. Okay, like suppose we have a very large number of columns in our data set. So in that case, we simply use a Naive Bayes classifier to get the fastest result. Okay. So if we see probability means possibility or chance. So it is a branch of statistics that deals with the occurrence of a random event. The value of probability lies between 0 to 1. Okay. And if we see the formula of probability is nothing but the probability of an event to happen, okay, any particular event to happen is equal to the number of favorable outcomes divided by total number of outcomes. So if we take the probability of tossing a two coins, okay, at a time, so in that case we have four different outcomes. First, HH means head head, then TT means tails tail, then head tail and tail head. So if we want to find a probability of one head, okay, so number of favorable outcomes are two. One is head and tail, and second is tail and head. And total number of outcomes are four. So the probability of one head is 2 by 4, which is nothing but 1 by 2. Okay. So now let's take another example of probability for simplification. So if there are 6 pillows in a bed, so is the required probability is nothing but the number of yellow pillows in the bed divided by the total number of pillows. Okay. So the answer is nothing but the 2 divided by 6, which is equal to 1 divided by 3, and it's simply 0.33. Okay. So 1 by 3 is the probability of picking a yellow pillow. Okay. So likewise, in probability, okay, like we are dealing with multiple probability distribution, guys. Okay, like we have a discrete probability distribution as well as a continuous probability distribution. Okay, so on the basis of this probability distribution, we can do a lot calculation, okay, and lot pre-processing on the data. We use normal distribution for data transformation. Okay, like we can see that in the data transformation we are just transforming the data by using a normalized method or standardized method. Okay, both are from normal distribution. Okay, so second thing is that a summary statistics. So if you have the data and you wanted to find a summary statistics from that, so from any programming language, any tool, it will give you a mean, then median, quartiles, okay, and range. But there is also important, okay, the different things like mode, interquartile range, skewness, and kurtosis. Okay, so if we start with the mean is nothing but the arithmetic. It simply say arithmetic mean or the average. Okay, so like if you want to compare the scores or test scores of two classes, okay, like a or a two group of students, so then you can simply take the test scores of one group of students, find the mean, take the test scores of a second group of students, find the mean, okay, and then simply say that uh, x is a mean of group 1 and y is a mean test score of group 2. So from simply finding the means, okay, you can represent the whole population or whole sample, okay. So in the mean, you can able to calculate the population of mean as well as the sample of mean, okay, like sample mean. Then second is median. So median is nothing but the middlemost value. Why we are using median? In sometimes, like in our data set, in a particular column, there are some missing values, and in that particular data set, some outliers are present, okay. So we want to fill those missing values, okay. But if we fill those missing values with respect to mean or with mean, so it is not a good measurement or a good for that particular column, because in that column outliers are present. So in that case, you need to fill those missing values with the help of median, okay, with the help of median. So likewise, you need median, okay, as you need mean. Then mode. Mode is nothing but the most frequent value. So if your data is a categorical data, like a gender, like a car brand, okay, so this is nothing but a categorical variable, okay, or categorical feature. So if in that column, okay, if that particular column is a categorical variable or categorical column, so in that column, if we have some missing values, so fill those missing values, we need to find mode of that column. Then we are able to fill those missing values with mode, okay. Then with range, we can find the spread of the data, okay. So range is also the important quantity in data science, because sometime, like if you take the age column and the salary, okay, salary of employees, okay, you have the employees data and you have two columns in that, first age and second salaries. So you will see that the range of age column will be starting from like 18 or starting from 20 to 60 or let's say 70. But the range of salary column is starting from like 5k or like 5,000 to in some lakhs, okay. So you see the difference between the ranges of age and salaries, okay. So with the help of range, you can simply find the difference, okay, and then you identify that you need to transform data, okay, and you need to convert the data or to change the data from a same range. If we see a lower quartile is nothing but the, like in box plot we are using these quantities, okay, lower quartile, middle quartile and upper quartiles. So in the lower quartile, it is nothing but a quantity of 25%. Means this at Q1, you will simply say that this is nothing but a 25% of the data. Okay, like from minimum value in your data to this value like Q1 value. So this is nothing but a 25% of the data. Okay, then median is nothing but the Q2, and which is a middlemost value. Okay, and upper quartile means it's a Q3, and we use this Q3 for finding like 75% of the data. Okay, the at which value we just cover the 75% of the data. Okay, so we'll cover this part, okay, when we plot the box plot in spider as well, their interquartile range. Okay, it is nothing but the difference between Q3 and Q1, means upper quartile and lower quartile. So we check where the middle 50% of the data is, okay, with the help of interquartile range. Okay, we also see this in box plot. Okay, when we plot the box plot in spider. Then skewness. Okay, it finds the shape of the data. Okay, it will show you the shape of the data, how your data distribution shape. Then with the help of kurtosis, you can find the spread of the data distribution. Okay, so these are very interesting topics. Okay, so here we'll see that. So if we see the business movements, so first business movement is nothing but the mean, which indicates the central tendency of a distribution, which indicates the width or the deviation or variation in our data. Then skewness and kurtosis. So if we see that here in the skewness, we have three different types. Okay, like suppose we have a column age. Okay, so if we plot the age column, okay, in a curve manner, so we'll see that, so it looks like it's starting from like a 0, 1, 2 up to so on, like at the 20, 30, okay, and more like up to 40. Then after that, it reduces the strength, okay, or the power of human being. Okay, so there are three different types of skewness. First is positively skewed, then symmetric or symmetrical distribution, and negatively skewed. So if we see that if our data is a positively skewed, shows a positive skewed distribution, which means our curve of the data distribution is looks like this. Okay, it is also called a right-tailed distribution. Okay, it is also called a right-tailed distribution. Then if we see our values of mean, median, and mode are all equal, then in that case we simply say that data distribution is nothing but the symmetric or symmetrical distribution. And if our data distribution is looks like this curve, so in that case we can say that our data distribution is nothing but the negatively skewed. Okay, so why to see skewness? Because you can identify where the outlier is. Okay, You can identify the where the outlier is. Okay. Then kurtosis. Kurtosis, with the help of kurtosis, you can easily find the spread of the distribution. Okay, spread of the distribution. Okay, so there are also three different kurtosis. First is leptokurtic, mesokurtic, and platykurtic. Leptokurtic means we have a thin tails, okay, of a data distribution curve, okay, like this red one. Then if we see the mesokurtic means it's a fit, okay, or if we just compare the people to this kurtosis, okay, like leptokurtic means like very taller people. Mesokurtic means like those normal height people, okay, and platykurtic means the people are like having obesity problems, okay. So why to find kurtosis? Because it will directly show you the variation, okay, variation of the data, okay. This is nothing but the variation. If you have a platykurtic distribution and if you compare leptokurtic, so you can simply say that variation of this platykurtic is more than the variation of leptokurtic, okay, like the range or spread, okay. So now let's start with correlation analysis. So it is another very important topic for data science, because in regression analysis you will see that if you want to find a regression model, okay, so you will simply find a or simply plot a scatter plot, okay. So if we plot a scatter plot of 2 dimensions, so it could be a strong like it it shows you a scatter plot like this, okay. So it means your data points are very close to each other, and it will show you the upward trend, okay, okay, upward trend in that, okay, manner. So this is nothing but a strong positive correlation, okay. This scatter plot shows you a strong positive correlation, means as x increases, values of y also increases, okay, like number of hours are you studying, okay, then your test scores will be increasing, okay. Then we'll see some moderate positive correlation in some scatter plot as well. So in this scatter plot you will see that there is some difference between data points, okay, but there is a upward trend. So in that case you will simply say that there is a moderate positive correlation, okay. Means you can say that if you see upward trend, then positive correlation. If you see downward trend, you you simply say negative correlation, okay. If your points, data points are close to each other, like are very close to each other, then in that case you will say that there is a strong positive correlation, okay. And if your data points are just fluctuating, okay, or they are making some distances, okay, from like from each other, So then in that case, you will say that it's a moderate positive correlation. Okay? And if your data points are just plotted in a random manner, then you will say that there is a no correlation between X and Y. X and Y are nothing but the two columns in our data, okay, which are numeric, Then if your data shows a downward trend, okay, with some scatterness present, so then you simply say that there is a moderate negative correlation in your data, okay, in between X and Y variables or columns. If you see a downward trend as well as some very small distance between the data points, then you can simply say that there is a strong negative correlation. Okay. And if you have some non-linear pattern or curvilinear pattern, then you can say that it's a curvilinear or non-linear relationship between X and Y. Okay. So scatter plots just provide you the relationship between the two continuous variables. Okay. But remember, correlation does not guarantee causation. Okay. Correlation by itself does not imply a cause and effect relationship. Okay. It just find the strength of relationship, okay, by width and tightness of scatter. Like X and Y increases, then there is a positive correlation. X increases, Y decreases, there is a negative correlation. Okay. So correlation, value of the correlation, there is a formula for finding a correlation coefficient, okay, between X and Y. There is a formula. So, and the value of correlation coefficient should be between -1 to 1. Okay. Now, if your correlation coefficient between X and Y are nothing but the two columns in the data set, okay, or let's say age and salary, okay. So if the value of correlation coefficient of X and Y is between the -1 to 0, okay, 0 excluded. So this is nothing but the negative correlation, means minus sign represents there is a negative correlation, okay. And this value, this 0.4 value shows there is a moderate or strong correlation, okay. If correlation coefficient's value is greater than 0.7, okay, it's not a standard cutoff, okay, but if we take a cutoff value as a 0.7, so we can simply say that if the correlation coefficient value is greater than 0.7, then it's a strong positive, okay. And if the correlation coefficient value is between -1 to -0.7, then there is a strong negative correlation. And if the correlation coefficient value is between -0.7 to -0.20, 0 is excluded. So there is a moderate correlation, moderate negative correlation. Okay. And if the correlation coefficient value between X and Y is 0, then we simply say that there is no correlation. And if the correlation coefficient's value is greater than, or we can say that it's a positive one, so then there is a positive correlation. Okay. And by using the width of the dotted region or the data points, you simply just find out there is a strong correlation or moderate correlation or poor correlation. Okay. And remember guys, the range of correlation coefficient should be is lies between -1 to 1. Okay. So now let's see the another topic in the statistics for data science is hypothesis testing. Why we are using hypothesis testing in statistics? Because at the starting of our data science project, we need to find or we need to take some like hypothesis or we need to assume something. Okay. So for that purpose, we just use hypothesis testing. And also in our project, okay, at some time like after building the model, okay, if we have in our data we have 10 features, okay, and we are finding a regression model, okay, we have 9 independent features, we have one dependent features, okay, we are building the model for dependent feature by using independent features. Okay, so after building a regression model, how we find that each and every independent feature, these 9 features are significance like are playing the significance role for predicting the dependent variable, means our 10th column. So with the help of hypothesis testing, we simply calculate this thing. Okay, there is a significance. Okay, means that column is a highly significant for predicting the dependent variable or not. Okay, so hypothesis testing is a form of statistical inference that uses data from sample to draw conclusion about a population parameter or a population probability distribution. Okay, so sometimes we are using hypothesis testing for finding or for checking the independentness between the two columns. Okay, sometimes we just find a goodness of fit test. Okay, or if two columns are categorical column, so for finding a correlation, okay, so we can use a chi-square test. This is nothing but a correlation in the categorical variables. We need to compare the means of the two different data. In that case also we are using a hypothesis testing. If we need to compare the variance of two different data sets, in that case also we are using hypothesis testing. Okay, in agricultural field we are using analysis of variance. Okay, so in that case we also use a hypothesis testing. Okay, so in many fields we are using hypothesis testing. It is very important part. The null and alternative hypothesis for our problem. Okay, first we need to make assumption about the parameter or the distribution. Okay, this assumption is called the null hypothesis and is denoted by H naught. And an alternative hypothesis is denoted by HA, which is the opposite of what is stated in the null hypothesis. Okay, means if we made some assumption about the parameter or the distribution, so this is a null hypothesis, and opposite of the null hypothesis is nothing but the alternative hypothesis. Okay, this is quite a theoretical term, but in each and every data science project we are using hypothesis testing directly and indirectly. Okay, so there are multiple steps to perform hypothesis testing. Okay, first we need to define null and alternative hypothesis. Then we need to examine data and check the assumptions. Then we need to calculate the test statistics. Then we need to determine the corresponding p-value. And finally, we make the decision about the null hypothesis. Okay. So if we see that, like, let's take one problem for hypothesis testing, like considering Italian adults from the age group 18 to 30 living in Italy. So do males have significantly higher mean body mass index, means BMI, than females? So this is a comparison between the mean BMI of males and females, okay, in the age group of 18 to 13 living in Italy. Okay. So here the population is Italian adults, okay, of the age 18 to 30 in Italy, and the parameter of interest is body mass index. Okay. So first step is to define hypothesis. So we assume that there is no difference between the means of female BMI and male BMI, means body mass index. So this is nothing but the S naught equal to U1, or simply the mean of males, okay, mean of BMI of male. U2 are nothing but the mean BMI of females. Okay. Then alternative hypothesis is nothing but the opposite of null hypothesis. So here alternative hypothesis is there is a significant difference in mean BMI. Okay. So here our alternative hypothesis is U1 is not equal to U2. Means mean BMI of female is not equal to mean BMI of male, and vice versa. Okay. So, and here we just take a significance level as a 5%, because we can just tolerate 5% of error. Okay, not more than that. Okay, so here U1 is nothing but the population mean BMI for males, and U2 is nothing but the population mean BMI for females. So now in the second step, we are examining the data and checking the assumptions. Okay. So here the data was filtered to include only Italian adults that were between the ages of 18 and 30. So then we need to calculate summary statistics and sample sizes for both males and females. Okay. So for that, we need some assumption that we need to check are as follows. Like, samples are considered simple random samples. Okay. This is the one sampling method. We have so many different types of simple sampling methods as well. Okay. This is a simple, okay. We need samples from a, like, samples are considered to be a simple random samples. Okay. Then samples are independent of each other, and both population of responses are approximately normal, or sample size are both large enough, means greater than 30, means we are collecting a samples of BMI, okay, for each, for male as well as for female. Okay, means we just take a greater than 30 participants in our test. Okay, for each, for male greater than 30, for female greater than 30. Okay, and we just calculate the BMI for each and every person. Then we just calculate the test statistics in the step 3. So test statistics is a measure of how far our sample statistics is from our hypothesized population parameter. Okay, like in the initial state, we just assume some population parameter. Okay, so now we actually calculate the test statistics. Okay, means we calculated a parameter and our assumed population parameter is something. Okay, so now here we are checking, okay, in terms of estimated standard errors. So if here the test statistics would be a z test statistics. Okay, so z is equal to best estimate minus null value divided by estimated standard error. Okay, so this is a very basic statistics test, guys. Okay, two sample statistics test. Okay, and the best estimate is the difference between the male and female statistics sample mean. Okay, so the null value is the hypothesized null value. Okay, and finally, okay, we are determining the p value. P value is nothing but the minimum level of significance. Okay, or with the help of p value we can simply accept the null hypothesis or reject the null hypothesis by comparing with level of significance, means value of alpha. Okay, which is given as a 5%. Okay, here level of significance level is nothing but the 5%. Okay, so p value is determined by assuming the null hypothesis is true. It is the probability of observing a test statistics of a value z or more extreme. So if our p value is less than alpha value, means level of significance or significance level, then in that case we reject the null hypothesis. Okay, and if our p value is greater than alpha, means level of significance, then we just accept the null hypothesis. So now here we'll see some plots, how to plots, okay, in spider. So this is, I think this is a very new for you, because in the previous session we'll cover Jupyter Notebook and RStudio, but not spider. Okay, so this is how Python looks like. Okay, so most of the developers or for like Python developers and data scientists who just build a high number of codes, okay, those who use this spider. Okay, so this window is for coding purpose. Okay, here you can able to do code, okay, any type of code. Okay, I did, okay, this. Then this window is for checking the variable explorer. Okay, here you will see that the output of your code, and this is the console. Okay, here you can able to run your code. Okay, so let's start with our code. First we need to import some libraries, okay, for doing calculations, for doing analysis in Python. Okay, so in spider, first we are importing pandas library. Okay, those who know Pandas library is for data manipulation purpose, data pre-processing purpose, and to read the data, we need Pandas library. Okay. Are you guys able to see my screen? Okay. Or shall I just zoom it? Okay. So here you will see that. Okay. So now, and like there are some buttons, okay, given here, but for like in Spider, if you need to open a new Python sheet, then you can just use this. Okay, then you can able to open the new sheet. Okay, if you have already a like a Python file in your folder in your system, then from here you can able to access any particular file. Okay, and like then for saving purpose anything. Okay, and if you run a total file, so with the help of this F5 button or run file, this green button, this green triangle, you can able to run the total file. Okay, and for running a particular line of code, okay, you just use this button. Okay, or F9. Okay, so let's start with our code. First, let's import Pandas library as PD. Okay, so if I run this, so here you will see that it's running. Okay, this red will show you it's okay. Now we just import Pandas library. Okay, we are using Pandas library for reading the data, for reading the CSV file, for reading the Excel file, okay, or for reading any other file. Then for data manipulation purpose, we'll use Pandas library. Then for statistical analysis or for creating a n-dimensional arrays, we need NumPy library. Okay. So for that purpose, we just import NumPy as NP. And finally, for data visualization purpose, we are using Matplotlib library. Okay. So this library is a very popular library, and this library is very commonly used in Python. So we are importing Matlab as matplotlib.pyplot as PLT. Okay. Then after importing this, we are importing okay the data set of NBA. Okay, by using the function read underscore CV. Okay, and this function is in the Python library. Okay, by using pd dot read underscore csv, and in parentheses, okay, in double quote, you will just mention the path. Okay, this is the path. By using this path, okay, you can easily just read the CSV file your data. Okay, then here you will see that the data set. Okay, after just clicking 2 times, okay, so here you will see that first column is nothing but the data serial number, second is the work experience and GMAT score. Okay, and here we have total 773 observations and only 3 columns. Okay, and now let's start with plotting histogram in Spider. So if we plot histogram, okay, in Spider. So it will show you, okay, this. So by with the help of PLT, means by using matplotlib dot pyplot as PLT, okay, this PLT dot hist, okay, and column name and density equal to 2, which means we are finding the histogram of probability distribution of GMAT column, okay, of GMAT column. Okay. Here you will see that this is your GMAT column, okay. We are finding the histogram of this column, okay. So here this is the plot, simple plot of GMAT score, okay. So now, anyone, could you please tell me the shape of this histogram? So that's why it's a negatively skewed distribution. Now, from histogram, you can identify the shape of the distribution. Okay. Second thing, with the help of histogram, you can easily find mode. Okay. You can easily find mode. How? Okay. This bar shows you the mode. Okay. Or it simply gives you the value. Okay. Here something here like 720 is the mode. Okay. Then from histogram you can calculate range. Okay. Range, like the maximum value is 780 and minimum value is 600. So the range is 780 minus 600, means 180 is the range. So for comparing with this with our another column, okay, with work experience column, you can just find the range of the work experience and compare with the range of GMAT column. Okay, so we can easily just find these things from histogram. Okay, so there are three things to find from the histogram. First, shape of the distribution, mode and range. And in sometimes, if you have some outliers present in your data set, so you can able to find the outliers also from the histogram. Okay, but there is a more clear way to identify the outliers, okay, in our data set, is to find just plot the box plot instead of histogram. It's just name, it's not like it's a name only of a data set. Okay, we have the data set of MBA, and in that we have work experience column and GMAT column, GMAT score. Okay, so here now, after finding the shape, okay, then here if you just go with this value, okay, if you need to find the values of skewness and kurtosis of your data, so with the help of just type mpa.skew, okay, so then you can easily find the skewness of each and every column in your data. Okay. So first is it is not useful because it's a data serial number. Then second column is important, and third one, okay, work experience and GMAT score. So here you will see that work experience is 2.6. Okay. So which means work experience shows a positive skewness. It's a greater than zero na. So that's why it's a positive skewness. GMAT score is a negative, means minus 0.595477. So here you will see that there is a negative skew. Okay, negatively skewed distribution. So likewise, you can verify the skewness and kurtosis by using these values. Okay, it is positive or negative or zero. If it is negative, then it's a symmetric one. Okay, then if you need to find a skewness and kurtosis for a particular column in your data, so you just mention the column. Okay, and with the help of this you can easily find the skewness and kurtosis. Okay, okay guys, then let's plot box plot of GMAT score. Okay. We are not analyzing this data, we are just finding the insights of histogram, what is skewness, what is kurtosis, how to find in spider. Okay, we are checking that one. Okay. So here, after just using PLT, this matplotlib library dot pyplot, PLT dot boxplot, and in the bracket you just mention the column name, okay, of your data. Then it will show you the box plot. Now here, after plotting the box plot, you will see that there are some outlier presents in our box plot. Okay? There are some outlier present in our box plot. Now let us discuss the quartiles here. Okay, because from box plot we can easily find the quartiles. Okay, so this is nothing but the outliers. Okay, this is the minimum value. Okay, actually some of you say that this is the minimum one. Okay, but this like we can say that this is the minimum value, these are the outlier. Okay, because this is the standard range of this column, this is the standard range. Okay, and these are the outliers because 97.5% of the observation are lies between this range. Okay, like 8, it's about 780, and like 630 to 780, means 97%, 97.5% of the observation is lies between 630 to 780. Okay, then this line show you the lower quartile. Okay, if you see the value of lower quartile is something like 690 and 695. Okay, now this is the median one, or we can say that this is the quartile 2 or Q2, and this is the upper quartile. Now why we are finding this Q1, Q2 and Q3? Okay, to find the different percentage and its intervals. Okay, so from here, from this minimum value to this line, okay, there is 25% observation is lies between this range. Okay, from 630 to something about 690. Okay, then it's a median one. Okay, so from 630 to 720, okay, there are 50% observation, okay, lower 50% observation, and here there are 50% observation. We can say that upper 50% observation. And then other parameter, which is also called as interquartile range, means middle 50% of the observation is lies between Q3 and Q1. Okay, means only in this small range from 6 from 680 to 730, we have 50% observation in this range, middle 50% observation. Okay, and also with the help of box plot, we can find we can check the skewness as well. Okay, like how, if the Q2 is just comes or we can say that this Q2 or median is just come to the Q3, then we can say that it shows a negatively skewed. Or if there is a small difference between Q2 and Q1, then we can say that it's a positively skewed. Okay, but here if we check the skewness, and the skewness is minus point not 5, so that's why we can't here we are not just see that small uh, difference between this uh, Q3 and Q2 and difference between Q2 and Q1. Okay, okay, so from box plot we can able to find outliers. Okay, there is outlier or not, then we can find quartiles, then we can just find the skewness also from the box plot. Okay, so for finding the skewness, where it is negatively skewed or a symmetric or a positively skewed, okay, we just find the difference between Q3 to Q2 and Q2 to Q1, like here. Okay, and here we'll just find out the skewness. Okay, now let's plot a box plot, but here our total number of observations are nothing but 773. So there is a quite huge number of observations. So if we plot the bar plot, okay, so the bar plot is looks like this. Okay, so here from this bar plot we are not even like find one interpretation. Okay, we can't just draw one interpretation from this bar plot. Okay, so the reason for plotting this bar plot here is to see our data points is continuous or not. Okay, in some of the interview questions, some interviewer may ask you that what is like when to plot bar plot and when we are plotting box histogram. So we are plotting histogram when the data is continuous. We are plotting box plot bar plot when our data is discrete. Okay. We just see like in recently we just see what is discrete variable and what is continuous variable. Okay, So you need to tackle that question in the interview. Okay. So for that purpose, I just plotted this bar plot here. Okay. Now again, let's read another data set, which is empty cars. Okay. So here now, this data set is very interesting data set. This is a empty cars data set. Okay. First is a mileage per gallon, then uh, their CYL, then can say that this the horsepower, draft, okay, weight, okay, then Q seconds, okay, and like that we have so many parameters or features in our data set. Okay, so to analyze this, okay, first from okay, in this data, on this data we can plot multiple plots, okay, like cross table, then box plot, pair plot, okay, scatter plot as well, because here we have some all data is nothing but the numeric data. Okay, so first let's plot a cross table. So here we just plot a cross table of the cylinder column and gear column. Okay, so which means in our data, okay, in our data we just find a cross table of the observations that, okay, of a car which has a 3 gears and which has 4 cylinders. Okay, there is only one observation or there is only one car here. Okay, then we have two cars in our data set of gear 3 and 6 cylinders, okay, of 6 cylinders. Likewise, we just calculated this cross table. Okay, so why we need to plot this cross table? For comparing the variables, for comparing the features, for comparing these features, we need this term, okay, cross table. So with the help of pandas library pd.crosstab, we calculate a cross table. Okay, then with the help of these you can just find the cross table and you can plot it. Okay, here you will see that. So this is the bar plot, okay, of cylinders, different number of cylinders, 4, 6 and 8. Okay, with gear. Okay, with gears means we are comparing two variables or two features in our data. So you see that here we are using pandas library for comparing the two variables in our data. Okay, likewise we can able to create multiple plots. Okay, we can able to create multiple plots in our data. So now here we are using another data visualization library, which is a Seaborn library. Okay, in Python we have multiple data visualization library, multiple data pre-processing library. Okay. Now let's plot a box plot by using Seaborn library, means sns.boxplot. And here you can see that if you plot a box plot with respect to x, means our gear column and mileage per gallon column of our empty cars dataset, means here we are comparing the range of mpg, okay, for different gears, for 3 gears, for 4 gear car or vehicle, or 5 gears. Okay, so here you will see that the range, okay, if a car having a car has a 3 gears, okay, so the mileage per gallon would be in between like 11 to 22. Okay, so you will see that the we are comparing the ranges here. Okay, we are finding the ranges, as well as we can say that first this box plot is nothing but a positively skewed, like because of the difference between this is very small as compared to the difference between this. Okay, so that's why it showing a positively skewed distribution for year 3. Okay, likewise here in all the box plot you will see that there is a positively skewed distribution, and here there is no outlier. Here there is no outlier in our in this variables. Okay, in the gear variable, okay, and in the mpg variable. Okay, so this is the term, and some of, like, if we just find the interquartile range, so for gear 3, okay, we'll have a small interquartile range as compared to fourth gear and fifth gear vehicle. Okay, likewise we have different percentage values for different box plot. Okay, means from these, like for comparing this multiple box plot, we can draw a like 10 to 15 number of insights from this single plot, or even more. Okay, so 60 to 80% of the time data scientists are just watching the plots, just manipulating the data, just doing pre-processing, or just using statistical analysis, performing statistical analysis on the data. So statistics is very much important in data science. Even uh, some of the statistician and some researcher says that statistics, data science is a renamed of statistics. Okay, so here we are finding the pair plot. Okay, now pair plot is a very interesting plot because it will compare two variables with respect to scatter plot as well as bar plot or histogram as well, like according to their, we can say that their type of random variable. Okay, their type. Okay, like mpg is a continuous type, mileage per gallon, so it will give a histogram. Okay, this cylinder are a discrete type like 4, 6 and 8, so it will like it shows a bar plot, and in the non-diagonal plots you will see that there is a scatter plot. Okay, but here we have one continuous and one discrete variables. That why our scatter plot is looks like this, because our mpg means miles per gallon observations are just divided into three different parts. Okay, three different parts for 4 cylinder, for 6 cylinder, and for 8 cylinders. Okay, here you will see that the cylinders count, okay, in the different cars, and this is the histogram. Okay, so now let's plot a line plot. So we are using this line plot in time series data. Okay, when we have a time series data, then in that case we are using this plot. Okay, line plot. Just to show you, I just plot this line plot here. Okay, like when we have a time series data, so in that case we are plotting the data like this. Okay, then let's plot a scatter plot. Now in the scatter plot, here you will see that there is a randomness present. Okay, means our points are scattered randomly, so that's why we can simply say that there is no correlation. Okay, because here we just plot a one column. Okay, one column which is mpg column, miles per gallon column of our empty cars data set. Okay, and we just use this np dot arrange. Okay, just the values from 1 to 32. Okay, now let's plot the scatter plot between two different columns of our data set. Now here, guys, can you please tell me the shape of this scatter plot? Anyone? Like in previous, in the PPT, we'll discuss about the scatter plot in the correlation analysis. It's showing a downward correlation as well as there is a moderate one, but the plot is a curvilinear pattern, is in a curvilinear pattern. Okay, so this is a curvilinear relationship, okay, between the mpg and horsepower. Okay, so there is a curvilinear relationship between a miles per gallon column and horsepower column. Okay, so we need to just think twice, okay, before checking anything. Okay, like it's a negatively skewed or a moderate one. Yes, it's absolutely showing a downward trend, but it also showing a by using the simple code. Okay, the first empty cars dot hp. Okay, first we mention a horsepower column, then dot correlation core in bracket empty cars, means we are finding the correlation coefficient between hp column and mpd column. Okay, so our correlation is nothing but this. Okay, minus 0.77, but here we just saw there is a non-linear correlation, but because in the correlation coefficient we are using a formula to calculate the value. of correlation coefficient. So that's why it is showing a negative correlation, and it's something like greater than 7. So if we take the cutoff value as a 0.7 or 75, so it is nothing but a strong negative correlation. Okay, but if we see the scatter plot, then there is a non-linear correlation or curvilinear correlation. Okay, so we need to understand two things here. First, we need to find the correlation coefficient value, but with that correlation coefficient value, we need to check the scatter plot. Okay, by just plotting a scatter plot, you can just identify there is a linear correlation or non-linear correlation.